All right, today I am so excited because this is the first time ever I've had a sit down with the powers that be. That's what I'm going to call these two guests today from Casting Networks. I've got Katie O'Connor and Scott Madej here. And Scott is the manager of global talent support for Casting Networks, which to me, the way I interpreted this, Scott, and you can clear me up, you're the one who deals with the actors. That's like your job. Is that about how that works?
Yeah. I've talked to thousands of talent since I've been at Casting Networks for a couple of years now, in person, on the phone, via email, you name it.
Got it. And Katie is a casting director and enterprise sales manager for Casting Networks. So you are the one who's talking to casting directors all the time. So you're like, what are they liking? What are they? And obviously you're talking to me and actors too. But is that kind of what your job is?
Sure. Well, just to make a quick correction, Brian, I never was an actual casting director.
Okay, sorry.
I was working at an assistant and associate level for many years across many different offices. And prior to being officially hired with Casting Networks, I was with Casting Frontier, and I was their business development manager. And then Casting Networks acquired Casting Frontier. We're all one big happy family now. And as such, I moved up to West Coast sales for Casting Networks, where I now talk to casting directors, talent representatives, independent project creators, as well as talent, and making sure everybody gets the most out of the platform.
Awesome. So I went right into your jobs, but like, welcome to the Brian Breaks Character podcast. I feel so lucky to have you here. Like, I guess I got too excited and so enthusiastic about talking about what you do that I jumped over like saying hello and welcome. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Katie, for having the integrity around being a casting director. I will just share with you, I don't know if you guys know this, is that, a lot of times, actors have a lot of sources to find information. They could be on Clubhouse or they can be on Instagram. And there's a lot of people who call themselves coaches and a lot of people call themselves casting directors. And I appreciate you even clarifying for me what your role is when you were in casting, because it means so much, I think, because an actor can be very vulnerable and susceptible to information that they're getting. And so it's really just lovely to see you make that correction there. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, I've too much respect for the profession itself to, claim that I'm something that I wasn't. And casting directors, it takes a level of, there's years of work and licensing and certain guilds that they belong to. And I've been so lucky to work with amazing people throughout my career. But in terms of like the title of casting director, I wouldn't call myself as such, but I do have an intimate knowledge of the field. I have been behind the table on anything from independent, film casting directors to the studio level to commercial casting. So it's given me a nice perspective in terms of how the whole ecosystem of auditioning from, getting your first commercial job to getting, network testing to see where those levels are at.
Great, because that is why I have you here. This is also for my audience, which is a lot of different creatives, but today we're talking specifically to actors. And this month I've been focused only on the idea of getting auditions. And the part of the reason I'm focused on that is because, we've had this 2 years of social distancing. Let's just sum it up in those words. And us coming back onto sets and being in production and what does it look like and all that stuff. And so now I think there's a real desire, like we've been patient for long enough, and it's time to really look at how do we get auditions and how do we move into the new normal. And so Casting Networks is such an incredible tool for actors. And I also think that actors can sometimes feel dwarfed by technology, or like, am I using it to the best of the ability? There's lots of helpful resources inside of Casting Networks, but I really wanted to try to get down to brass tacks a little bit with the two of you today. Like, what do you really see? What really works? So I want to go first. I'm going to go to like, tell me, Scott, as the man who talks to actors the most, right? That's your job, kind of like what's going on the actor side of things. Is there a mistake you see actors making all the time on their profiles or in general with the way that they relate to this resource?
Not mistakes. I mean, the new Casting Networks launched in May. So, a lot of people are looking at a new profile format for the first time. So I think there's a lot of me listening to how actors actually use that profile and how they're successful with it. I think the mistake some people make is worry about how many credits they have and some of the smaller details versus what is the first thing that loads on that page? What's above the fold before you start scrolling down? What is that feature photo that's on there? Is it on brand for what you're submitting to? Do you have a good featured clip, video and audio attached? And really focus on what is on that page right at the top when it first loads. So I'm not seeing a lot of mistakes, but just people discovering the new platform and really trying to make it work for them the best that they can.
Yeah, and so you went there. Let's talk about the new platform. It caused a lot of hullabaloo. A lot of actors were like, "What's happening?" And I just think that is because change is hard, regardless if it's, that's not about good or bad. It's like, oh, change is hard. Oh, something's changing. I need to now interact. I need to think about this differently. Can you tell us a little bit about what motivated that revision to the platform, that update to the platform? Where did that, that kind of relates to both of your positions in many ways?
Absolutely. I mean, Casting Networks, the profile layout was probably the same for about 15 years. So this was a big change for talent. And we really wanted to modernize the platform so that we could develop more features and improve it further. So that was a lot of the reason behind it, was so that we can future-proof it, so that we can develop, new products or new features for talent, for casting directors, for agencies. So it was very much a technological leap for us to do this more than anything.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I mean, can I just please give compliments? If you guys haven't, if anyone's listening who hasn't
mobile friendly.
Yeah, it's mobile friendly. Oh, it is mobile friendly. We all need to know that. It's so pretty. Like, and the colors are lovely. Like, it does what you said about above the fold is such a great takeaway, I think, for actors to grab onto. And Katie, what are you seeing on your side of things with this new update? Like, how are people reacting on the casting side?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think also, with the relaunch, like you said, Brian, with any new technology, especially with our casting director and more established clients who've been working with the same platform for 15 years, it was an adjustment. And we certainly had a couple of weeks of casting directors calling in panicked. How do I do this? How does this workflow? But then once they got into the rhythm of it, and once they realized that it was actually so much more streamlined than the original process, it was just the devil they knew. Once they were able to adjust to that, then now we're getting such positive feedback coming, and everyone's being like, you know what, guys, it's great. Thank you.
Yay, awesome.
Bumps in the road for sure. And that's with any new technology. But to echo what Scott said, as somebody who worked with the older platform on the casting side, prior to the relaunch, I will say that getting any kind of feature requests, any type of changes to the platform itself, talking to support, and they go, yeah, that sounds nice. We'll put in a request, and hopefully, and that was sort of, you get this sort of extended timeline. I am so blown away with what our developers are capable of with this new platform, and being able to implement changes and feature requests within days, weeks.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's a whole new ball game. And I think that it's just going to benefit our, casting users, our rep users, and most importantly too, the talent users, because you're the ones who are paying for the subscriptions. And it's really ultimately a tool for you guys to get work. And that's what we want to do. We want to maximize that efficiency.
Great. There's two things you said in there that I want to pull apart. They're so juicy. And one was that you said that like now you are able to be more facile with, or nimble even with requests of like, hey, can you change this? And is that something that when you're seeing those requests, you're like, hey, we got like 4 requests for this. Let's see if this is something we actually want to honor. I see Scott, like you both nodding your head. Is that kind of what you see happening? Is like, have there been changes even since you relaunched, or like things you guys are considering? Is that, who wants to cover that question?
Yeah. I mean, since the platform launched, we put it out there, we put it in the universe, and we've been listening. And based on that feedback that we're getting, we're passing that on to our teams, and we're making changes fairly quickly. Sometimes multiple times per week, we're updating the platform to just improve features, add new features. We just launched text message notifications on the platform. So it's definitely something that's part of our process, is just listening to how talents, casting directors, and agents are using our platform.
That's so exciting. I mean, it must be exciting for you. Like, oh my gosh, we want to make this change and we want to help them more. Like that you get to actually see it be executed in a timeline that feels pretty efficient. It must be exciting to be on the receiving end of that, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Especially being able to work with a new platform now where making these changes are possible, as opposed to just having to have that conversation with clients and being like, yeah, I really wish we could be able to do that for you. But unfortunately, and now that's, we're so much more nimble, like you said. And so I think because of that, we're being able to move forward, and as we move into even more future requests that, casting directors have, as they find what needs that we can have, how can we make the platform even more all-encompassing for a casting director or a talent agent's day-to-day work? How can we be the one-stop shop for everybody? And I think that's the goal ultimately. And as we get that feedback, then we can continue to move forward.
Yeah, and another thing that I'm hearing behind this is the new platform, what it lives on is a more robust version of code, essentially, so that we can actually make changes so easily, which is really exciting for us. And as actors are thinking about what am I paying for, if they have those kind of questions come up, know that this is one of the incredible parts of what that investment is for. So you mentioned, Katie, that actors are paying for it, and yet your clients are casting. How do you navigate that or how do both of you kind of navigate that? It's almost like to me, it's like I've got 2 clients that I'm serving, and how do I make everybody happy at the same time? Can you share a little bit about that, like what that's like for you?
Sure, absolutely. So with casting directors or project creators or talent reps, for them it's about maximizing efficiency within the platform and how can they get their job done faster. Casting directors are casting multiple projects at one time. They're seeing thousands of talent per role. They need to figure out how to go through those submissions as efficiently as possible to make sure nobody's getting left out and to make sure that they're presenting the best talent to their clients. Talent reps need to organize their rosters. They need to make sure that they have the right talent being submitted for the right roles. They need to be responding to these project, releases as they're coming in, which by the way, we're now a global platform. So agents can now see project releases from all over the world at this point. And as far as talent goes, for them, it's about getting work. That's their most important thing. So it's about making sure that the jobs being posted on the public submission board are robust, worth rolling out of bed for, and worth submitting yourself for, and that the agents who have access to our casting directors are established enough where casting directors want to receive submissions from them. Vice versa, if there's somebody who's been, casting independent or short film projects for a while now, and then now they think they're ready for, a full-on casting director access to our website rather, there's a vetting process. So there's this entire ecosystem that exists within the industry where we have to kind of keep everyone happy because the casting directors are the one releasing the projects. The talent reps are the ones with the rosters of talent. And then of course the talents are the ones who are the base of everything, right? They're the ones who make everything happen. So we have to make sure that everybody's needs are being met and that it's coming together in a way where it works for everybody. So definitely some plates to be spinning at the same time for sure. But when it all comes together, I've seen days where it just hums along, where it works so perfectly. And it's only going to get better, especially with this relaunch. I feel like as we move forward and continue to make changes and continue to, listen to our feature requests, it's only going to get better.
So Scott, I have a question. Because I could see that sometimes you guys might be at cross purposes. Like, do you ever have meetings where like, yeah, but that's not going to make the talent happy. Like, I get that the casting director, do you ever are there ever like more tense or intense, like you're really having to duke out, what's the best way to get there? Does that happen? Or is it usually, does usually what's best for everybody always just rise to the top? Or do you sometimes have to really figure out a compromise?
Probably the latter. I think there's so much collaboration between all of our teams that it's more of a conversation and trying to get to that best possible scenario where everyone is happy or the most people are happy. Yeah. So I don't think there's a lot of conflict there. We're always troubleshooting. We're always trying to find the best solution to kind of make everybody happy on the platform and make sure they're getting the most use out of it. On the talent side, kind of what Katie said there, the platform. For talent, you might want to make sure that there are roles that are absolutely, worth getting out of bed for to submit to, but also like working with talent, which I do most of the time, make sure they're submitting to the right roles and make sure that they're consciously submitting. And so a lot of the job and a lot of what we do on the talent support side is help talent understand the platform, understand what a role means to them and which roles to submit to as well.
Yeah. And so when you say that you're trying to help them understand that, what are the ways in which you feel like you help them do that? How does that actually work in terms of how you're doing that? Is that in helping someone craft a breakdown? Is that in outreach? What are the ways that happens?
Well, on the talent side, yeah, sort of, make sure we're reading a breakdown, make sure that it's fit for you when you're submitting to it. I think, I've talked to so many talent and generally those are the people that are successful. Those are the people I ask the most questions to because I want to know how they're successful on the platform. And they read each breakdown. They don't just mindlessly submit to, 20 projects a day. They actually are conscious about it, but they're consistent about it. So they're submitting every day and they're making sure that they're making that part of their day or their work day as well. So a lot of it is just working with talent, talking to them about how they submit and then passing that information on to other talent that are looking to be how to successful on the platform. And then also working with the profile, making sure that their profile is up to date. With the old casting networks, we talked about it like it was there for 15 years. Some people had this set it and forget it mentality where they would update their profile, leave it, maybe update their photos every 3 or 4 years. But with the new platform, it forced everybody to sort of look at your profile again and update it. And so there are a lot of questions about how do I get the best out of my profile right now? And those questions that we're talking about earlier, where we're talking about, above the fold, making sure that's up to date, make sure that all your credits are up to date, make sure you have video clips on there, and just making sure that content-wise it's ready to go.
Yeah, and Scott, what you just said is so important. What I loved about the revision, I'll just say about the update was like everyone, I mean, any smart actor is like, oh, I better go look at what this profile looks like now, which by the way, I may not have looked at in the past 3 years. And so it suddenly made you take stock. Oh my gosh, that credit's missing. I have footage for that thing now, like all that thing that happens. And that's kind of what this month reset is supposed to be about here on Brian Breaks Characters, everyone looking at all your different profiles. And so I just love that was one of the things that just came, one of the great things that came out of this is let's assess what's going on here. And then the other thing you said about, and I think earlier you said like, don't focus on the number of credits you have or the types of credits you have. And what I love about the new platform is it doesn't make that the first thing we see above the fold. It makes it more about what is the type of this actor? What is this actor about? What can I learn about them? And then I can decide if I need to learn more, like if I need to go deeper on that. So that leads me into a little bit of a conversation around Casting Frontier and Casting Network. So there's two. Well, is Casting Frontier just going to disappear, or are they both going to exist separately? Can you help us understand the lay of the land there?
Well, I mean, as of right now, we're coexisting together, and Casting Frontier serves a different market than Casting Networks does. Casting Frontier is mainly based in Los Angeles. There are several commercial casting directors who do operate with us. There's one out of New York who likes to use Casting Frontier primarily. So there is still a base and still an audience for Casting Frontier. And there are also some casting directors who migrated to Casting Frontier because it replicates the older workflow of the original Casting Network site. And there are some casting directors who just prefer that workflow. And that's fine. And that's perfectly, and that's why we've kind of offered Casting Frontier as an alternative for a lot of folks, especially during the initial relaunch when we were still kind of ironing the bugs out and figuring out how to make this work best for everybody. For some casting directors who needed to get jobs done that week,
right?
Just couldn't figure out the workflow and didn't have the time to do it. We referred them to Casting Frontier. So there's still definitely a place for Casting Frontier within the family. Casting Frontier and Casting Networks actually exist under the umbrella of Talent Systems, which is our larger parent company. Okay. We also have Cast It Systems, which is our studio system that's used. We also have Motosphere, which is a CRM that's used by modeling agencies, sports teams. We've had some real estate companies use our platform. I've dug into it and I've done demos of it. It's an incredibly utility rich CRM. But there's a family of companies that we have, but Casting Networks, I would say, is the main jewel in the crown. And so with that, we just wanted to kind of see what it is that we can sort of, what am I trying to say here? With Casting Networks being the main platform, I think the future, at least in my opinion, this is not reflective of Casting Networks or any of the heads of Casting Networks, but what I think would be cool is if we could look to our other platforms and see what can we pull in about these other platforms to make Casting Networks even leaner and meaner, but more global at the same time, if that makes sense. If we could pull in these other features where we could have CRM capabilities for talent reps or for casting directors so they can keep track of invoices. They can keep track of their deals with their clients, as opposed to, at my old job where my boss used to just have folders, just crates and crates of folders had all the job information and the breakdowns and the invoices and all that kind of stuff. How do we streamline that for them? And for talent as well, I would love to see our platform move into a direction where talent can keep track of their auditions and callbacks. They can keep track of their expenses on the platform. It can act as a one-stop shop, which is what I said before, but it really serving as this multi-purpose platform for anybody in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, I love that. And for those of you who are listening, you might not know what a CRM is, because I feel like there could be some listeners. And
customer relationship management, which is, it's a way for sales and marketing to keep track of our clients or contacts and being able to send emails and all that good stuff, which, sometimes with casting directors, they're trying to get new clients. They're trying to get new production companies to work with them. They're running a business simultaneously in addition to casting. So, and the same thing goes for talent reps, for actors. I mean, we're all small business owners. So I think if there's a way that we could leverage the platform to be beyond just job seeking and making it into more career building platform, I think that, at least in my, dream of dreams, this is where I would see Casting Networks going. But for now, Casting Frontier, Casting Networks, they work symbiotically with each other, and you know, and I think for now it's going to stay that way.
Right. It's the taste of, it's the kind of the taste of the caster. The taste of the caster. I like this. I like vanilla. I like chocolate. We all kind of, we here in this little crowd right now feel like chocolate's probably the better one, which is Casting Networks. And
who are we to say, you know, no chocolate?
Yes, exactly. They're not going to take it away from you. Yeah, right. So one of the things that you said earlier is that it's a global platform now, that you're casting all over the world. One of the perceptions that I see with most actors is everything on Casting Networks is commercials. Can you help me dispel that myth, or can you lean into that myth? Can you help me understand that a little bit more, that why you think people have that perception, or not why they have perception? Clear us up a little bit. I think a lot of actors will say, Casting Networks, yeah, that's for commercials. That's for commercials. And I go over here for theatrical stuff. Can you help us with that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, Scott, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I mean, just anecdotally, we see theatrical work every day. I mean, yes, there's a lot of commercial work on our site. There's a lot to submit to that's commercial based.
I mean, hell yeah, if you've ever gotten a residual check, hell yeah, we're glad that they're there. Like I'm not poo-pooing commercials at all. I'm just trying to clear up this perception. Yes, totally.
Absolutely, but yeah, I mean, we see stuff from streaming. We see, all sorts of theatrical TV film projects posted daily. It might not be as much as commercial, that's true, but we still see quite a bit of it, and I think it's worth your time if you're a theatrical actor and that's something you're pursuing to look and filter and look for those projects and submit to them, because they might be posted exclusively to Casting Networks. They might not be on another platform, and if you're already on the platform for commercial, you certainly want to make sure you're open to that.
Yeah, and I think that what you just said, Scott, is one of the most powerful things that anyone takes away today. I want to underline it, is just because there's a lot of commercials doesn't mean there aren't great theatrical ones in there as well. But that's a great thing, is what that means. And I always think about how great that means. If most actors think there's only commercials here, then less people are submitting to this theatrical project that should be. So I'm in a smaller pool over here sometimes because less people are giving it the attention that they should be. I mean, honestly, I want every actor in the world to be giving it all the attention that you're talking about, Scott. But I think there's also this little bit of magic right now when actors are not grabbing onto that perception, like, oh, cool, not everyone's here. And so I love what you just said here. And then Katie, one of the things you said earlier about like finding cast directors who work on independent projects, like I'm sure there's like, heavy hitter cast directors who are always knocking on your door and are using Casting Networks, and that they're, they're on a system of using it. And then there's the more independent projects. What is it? How do they find you? What is that like? Can you share a little bit about, because I would imagine if I'm a first-time filmmaker and I'm like, I'm not sure where to go, I heard about this place, Casting Network, like how does that come to be? Can you share? Because I know every actor wants to know, like, I want to be that independent film, and why did that happen? Like, can you share a little bit of that?
Absolutely. One of our biggest resources is the educational sphere. We go after a lot of film schools and a lot of acting studios, and just giving them education about the platform and letting them know that this is a professional tool that, professionals in the field are using currently. And if you want to get a jump start on your career, build yourself a profile now. Start submitting yourself for projects. So then, if these kids who are out here in LA and they're going to film school, and by the time they graduate, they already know how to post a project, go through submissions, get self-tapes. They don't need to have their hand held, especially with younger generations who tend to be more tech savvy and tend to be, more adaptable to this kind of thing. You really just show them the platform and they go, okay, and then they just go and run with it.
Yes.
But we look on, sometimes on IMDb, there'll be postings and things of that nature, but it's also keeping our ear to the ground and just figuring out what conferences to go to, what conventions to go to. Scott just spoke at the Actors Convention, I believe last week it was. And so we're always trying to stay involved in our community, because we know the next generation of actors and the next generation of filmmakers are just arriving right now. They're just getting off the bus, off the train, off the plane. They're here, and they need to know what to do in order to get started. And getting a profile on these online platforms is the most efficient way for you to establish yourself and to start building credits and start getting yourself in front of the casting directors who are ultimately going to give you a career.
Right. And Scott, when you were speaking, or when you're speaking in general, when you're sharing this kind of education, I love what you said to there, Katie. What's the question you hear the most often? Is there one that I haven't asked today that is the question that actors are asking you most often?
How can I get a job? That's probably the question I get asked the most. And again, it just comes down to those basics of how are you using the platform, and tell me more about you as an actor. What are you putting out there as your brand? Like, if you're a commercial actor, or do you have a commercial focused profile? And so asking them questions back, usually, if that's the question that I'm asked. Because everyone's
such a therapist you are, Scott. Such a therapist. Anything at your
Kind of, sort of, yeah. That's part of the job. I mean, we're all creative types, and actors use the platform differently, and there's no right or wrong way to use it, but there's certain ways that people use it, and they're very successful with it. And so, if we can kind of have that conversation with somebody that's using it and how they use it, we can pass on that information. So, I think one thing you mentioned that I just kind of wanted to bring up here is just the technology element of it. And how kind of COVID changed that, how actors are their own producers, lighting technicians, Mike, you name it, camera operator now for a self-tape process that was really thrown upon everybody when we first entered the pandemic. And it'll be interesting to see where that goes and how much of that stays. But I think the more that you're able to, and the more capable you are in terms of self-tapes and being able to do your own self-tape process and submit that way, it does put you at the top of the pile as well.
Yeah. And I love what you said there about, you said something, I want everyone to not miss it, which is, if you're focused on commercials, that you have a way that you're creating your profile that like directs someone to say, this person is working towards commercial jobs. This person is working for theatrical jobs. Doesn't mean you won't be able to get a job in one of those other genres, but when you look at someone's profile, you can see what they're projecting. And that's a place where I think a lot of actors, because branding yourself, I think, is a word that actors can be both resistant to or completely seduced into, and it can become a black hole where you're fascinated by what is my brand for 10 years and it never gets sorted, and you have 10 years of a very confusing acting career, right? And so I think that it's important to, I think, sometimes seek help around those things, but just knowing that what we're hearing from the people who run casting networks, that's all, just be clear, is it makes a difference on that platform. So before you think like it doesn't matter, it matters there. And then the other thing you said, Scott, that I think is so powerful is I believe that the business is becoming more evidence-based. So meaning like if you say you can do funny, then you better have a clip that shows me you can do funny. And it better be, if it's a 1 hour comedy, it should show me this kind of comedy. If it's a 1 hour drama, this kind of so evidence-based, meaning show me that you can do what you say you can do. So if your profile shows me certain things, hopefully you should have a clip that shows us that you do that. That isn't supposed to mean everyone go off and shoot 5,000 clips. That wasn't what the directive there was, but it's just an acknowledgement that self-tapes say, if you say you can do that, show me you can do it. It's so easy to do that. And I also think it's so easy to be seduced into focusing on your self-tape setup and beautiful lighting and microphone and certainly invest there, but you should be giving at least as much energy to your online profile, because that beautiful setup isn't going to help you get auditions. It might help you book one, but it's not help you get auditions. And so that's what I think is so important. What you've said here, Scott, is that like, this is where auditions are happening. This is the marketplace where we go to get auditions, right? So we have to spend our time there. I just want to check to see if there's anything else. Oh, so we sometimes hear actors ask this question to me all the time. How many headshots should I have on the profile? Do you guys have any strong opinions here?
I would say personally, from my experience working in a casting office, you don't want so many where it just all blurs together and it's just your face in different outfits. And like, there's no characterization. There's no, be very mindful about the pictures that you use to submit yourself, because that's when you're a casting director and you have thousands of submissions per role. Sometimes all you have to go on are those thumbnails. So if you're submitting a photo that's not appropriate for the role, we're just going to go right past it. So and I was helping out a casting director the other day and going through their submissions, and some of these are just like, really, guys, like, come on.
When you say, okay, so Katie, I'm going to press you a little. When you say really, guys, what kind of like headshots are you saying? Like, why is this the photo? Is it because it's so off for the role, or is it because it's like a crappy photo?
No, I mean, look, I won't hold it against anybody if they don't have the budget to get a full-fledged, $800 photo shoot for the day. I understand headshots are I was an actor for many years. I completely understand how expensive headshots were. But with that being said, you still need to submit looks that are appropriate for the role. So for instance, this particular role was for a spokesperson for a tech company. So they were looking for a guy between 38 and 55, nice suit, authoritative, that kind of thing. And there were lots of submissions of guys in nice suits and presented them well. And there was a couple of like, a guy in a tux. And it's like, all right, that's kind of overdoing it a little bit, but okay. And then there's some guys who are just like them in a flannel and jeans. And it's just like, or I've even a few bathing suit photos where it's just like, guys, like,
what is happening? What is happening?
So that kind of stuff where it's just things where I think, like you said before, Brian, like set it and forget it with some people with their profiles, like, oh, I'll just submit a photo of myself, who cares? you're in a sea of thousands of other submissions. So you really need to figure out, put some conscious effort behind it, add a little submission note if you can, just saying if you have spokesperson experience or whatever relevant experience you have to the job, making a note of that. Adding something like, I would love to be considered. It's kind of, all right, whatever.
I want everyone on the page. I always say
exactly.
I always say like your passion for acting is so important, and also no one cares because no one is in the business who isn't passionate. So we have to like not use that as the transaction that you use. Say something other than that. Yeah, right.
Right. It's like when you go to an audition and you hear the dreaded question, so tell us something about yourself, right? And you have to do a personality slate. And then you have those actors who get caught up in a whirlwind of like, well, I moved out here 2 years ago to be an actor and it's my life. And it's like, you're at an audition. We understand that. We understand you're an actor and that you love it. Literally anything else about you.
Like, and that really relates to me. And Scott, you tell me if I'm off here with what you said in the beginning about above the fold, because in that above the fold section on Casting Networks, right now you can put a little bit of information about yourself. And my imagination is that doesn't have to always just be, I went to Northwestern and I went to this is where I studied. And this is like, it should have a little more personality in it. Is that what you're seeing works? Katie's nodding her head. Scott, is that what you're
seeing? Yeah. First of all, keep it in the first person. Don't do the third party bio in that about me. I've never seen that, look great or you're not connecting with that kind of content. So I do feel like, keep it in the first person, make it personable, say something outside of the normal, besides that you're an actor. Maybe your skill set is unique and there's something in there you want to call out, or maybe you have some training that you've had that makes you stand out. So I would really focus on the things that make you stand out as an actor, not that what every other actor has on their profile.
Got it. Yeah. And that new section I love that new section, just so you know, Scott, like props. I think it is so good. And if the actors have not gone to look at it, it is such a lovely way to be thought of first, because what Katie said is we don't just reduce you to your credits. We want to know who you are. So yes, your credits can matter at times that, if we're really getting picky here, but oftentimes we're just saying, is this person possible to do the role? And that's where we see between the lines. I always say that any opportunity you have to say something besides your credit is a place for us to understand between the lines. And that's what you kind of both just in some ways reiterated to me, like make sure we don't miss these things about you that if I just looked at your resume, I wouldn't understand, or I wouldn't pick up on as easily. Thank you for answering the question, Katie. I'm going to push you again, and I'm push you too, Scott, because you said not so many. So how many is so many? 6, 4, 8, 12, 2?
I would say personally.
Yeah, personally? This is not the industry standard.
Personally, I think any more than 6 is superfluous. I feel like you should have a solid commercial shot, neutral, just nice, smiley, just pleasant. Sort of like if you want to do kind of, so this is commercial looks, and then do like a theatrical look where it's a little bit more, somber, it's a little bit more serious. And then you could have some fun with things. Like, are you more of like a Home Depot Subaru kind of a girl where like a picture of you in flannel and like some jeans and just looking like that hometown girl next door kind of look, or are you a little bit more of a rocker chick and like, can you kind of like rough it up a little bit and play a character, have fun with it, like headshots are an opportunity for you to act in front of a camera. It's just a still camera. So just take that. And I used to love that when I would do headshots, like I get into the character when I would do each one of these things. And then it would come out with these very distinct looking people that weren't just my face making the same expression, but in 6 different outfits. It's just, that doesn't serve anybody, especially the actor. So that would be my advice, is just, keep it at 6. Like if you got to go to 8 or 10, fine. Like if you've got, some hand photos that you want to show, if you look amazing in a bikini, like by all means post that, because there's certainly going to be castings for that, for bathing suits and that sort of thing. If you're an athlete, great photo of you doing your thing. Whatever, if you're like an avid rock climber, if you had a great photo of you scaling some peak somewhere, you know what I mean? Something that just shows us who you are, that would be ideal. Because like Scott said, that little blurb that we have there is not only to see what your skills are, but it's a little bit of a personality test as well. Because one of the things I think actors forget is that casting is also looking at you from the perspective of, is this somebody I want to be on set with for 12 hours a day? Is this somebody I want to work with? And that comes into play almost as much as the talent does. I've been in callbacks where the director just, an actor was on the final callbacks on the table and the director just was like, absolutely not.
Wow.
I can't spend a day with that guy. I just can't do it. You know, it's like,
who's the guy? Just kidding.
I know. I'm not going to name names. No, but I've been in those situations before where personality, you know, clashes will happen and it matters. So if you're able to give us a little blurb about yourself that makes us go, oh, that's cute. Like, you know, or like, I like that, but you know, we'll be more inclined to bring you in because you seem fun than you would be just because you played, you know, Hamlet at the Globe and like all, you know, like any kind of stuff. It counts just as much because people like to work with people they like.
Yeah. And I think that what we just said, Scott, I'm coming to you for a second in the number question. So you start thinking, but what I heard you just say is actors cannot afford to be messy or neglect their essence in their profile right now, because we are not getting the opportunity to go into the room and have that energy exchange as much. And so the profile is it is so much more dependent. We depend on it even more to express who we are, which is why I keep coming to that blurb. There's more than the blurb that's amazing about the profile, y'all, but I'm just going there for a second. Is such a gift to us to be able to say, this is about me. You need to know this about me. So Scott, number of headshots. Told you I was coming to you.
I'm going to be controversial, but give me a moment.
Okay.
100 is fine, but keep them in your media bank. Don't put them on the profile. Keep them all in the media bank. And then your profile, I agree, between like 5 or 10 on the profile. But the more you have in your media bank, when you're self-submitting or your agency submitting you, they have more to work with and they can see all of your photos and they can submit that right photo for that actual project.
Wait. I need
Is this new information?
Yes, so I know about the media bank, and what I've heard from actors actually is what you just said is counterintuitive to what some actors are understanding. So this is breaking news, people. So what I've heard from actors is, but I have all these photos in my media bank and I don't know if I ever want to use them again. And so what you're saying is, can I pull ones in for certain submissions, or can my reps, or how does that work? Yeah. Can you share that? Can you explain that for all of us dummies out here, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're being submitted or you're self-submitting, you can choose any of your photos in your media bank. So you can choose whichever photo you have there. It's your private folder. It's where all your photos and videos and audio reels are uploaded to. And those aren't shown on your profile, but on your profile, be choosy. That's where you want to choose the 5, 6 to 10 maybe photos that really represent you as an actor and what you're submitting to. But then you sort of have this war chest of other photos that you can use, the hand shots, as Katie mentioned, things that you might not want on your profile, but they're projects that you submit to from time to time that you think are good photos for that in your media bank so that they're ready to go.
Great. So what that means is, I'm just going to say that one more time so we really get everyone's really clear. So I'm submitting, I've got my profile, it's got 6 photos. I love all 6 of those photos. And then I saw this job where it's like, must also look great in a bikini. So then I can grab that photo out of my war chest and decide that I'm going to submit it in for that job specifically, even though it might not always be there because that's not what I'm always going out for. Or the picture of must have great hands. I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw my hand photo in for this job, that kind of thing.
100%. Yeah, those photos where you're wearing the cop, uniform because you're submitting to a lot of cop dramas, or the medical, scrubs that you have on for the medical commercial projects that you're submitting to. If you don't want those on your profile, you can keep them in your media bank. They're ready to go when you are submitting to those kinds of projects.
Awesome. Okay, another question then, because that just sparked up so much for me, is one of the things that Casting Network does so beautifully is we have different profiles for our different reps. So I remember, like, I'm a hand model, just so you guys know. So I do have beautiful hands, I guess. I always thought they just looked like hands that did a lot of tool work. So maybe that's what they need for hand models. So so I have a profile that's just my damn hands. How bizarre is that? But my reps had a profile created. So when your representation with these other profiles, they can then control how many photos they want. Because what I'm also noticing is actors can get frustrated when their reps are choosing photos that are not the ones that an actor would choose necessarily. And they're like, but they want to give their reps exactly what they want. So what I love about this is the actor's empowered, create the profile that you want, see how it works, and your reps can have theirs. And then can your reps also pull from your war chest?
They can, yes.
Okay,
they
great.
can access your media bank photos.
Great to know. That's a really beautiful thing. So then I had another question, because I had an actor who said, I can't seem to delete anything from the media bank. Is it possible to take things out of there if you're done with it for forever?
You can hide it from profiles. If it was uploaded before the new platform, it cannot currently be deleted. They're working on that. That's something that should be available sometime in the future. But currently, it doesn't let you delete past a certain point. Anything that's newly updated or uploaded, it will let you delete.
Great. That's really good intel. Just like, hey, we just did this update. We just can't do that yet. It'll be there one day. That's good, because I had some people who are like, I'm frustrated. I can't make this go away. I'm never going to use this picture. This is why. And we're going to be seeing it in the future. That's so helpful. This was so helpful and exciting. For me to learn all these good things. Is there anything that you didn't get a chance to say today that, since you're living through this big update and this big revision, that you're wanting actors to hear that maybe you didn't get a chance to say today? I want to give you just the microphone for a second. There's anything else you feel like they need to hear?
I would personally say that, we're touching on the importance of profiles and keeping it updated and just building on what you were saying, Brian, is that we are entering this new age of using these online profiles and using self-tapes as being kind of the new normal. We're now seeing more and more casting directors now since the pandemic of being, the self-tape process is pretty nice. Like I can go home, I can see at least 30% more talent than I did with the in-person auditions. I can give my clients more people are now realizing the benefits of this workflow. And as such, I don't think actors are aware of how much casting actually happens based on profiles. Not even creating a project or getting submissions or anything like that, because casting directors, established casting directors on our site, have access to search our talent database. So sometimes if they're just looking for this one specific person, and then they can call your agent and say, hey, is so-and-so available for these dates? Because according to their profile, they're perfect for this job. This often happens if casting directors are often doing production a favor, or it's a smaller project where maybe they don't have the budget for a full-on casting session, but they want to get good talent. You could get cast based off of your profile if your profile is robust enough and if it's if it fits the bill. So don't underestimate the power of that. And if it means spending an afternoon just sitting in front of a computer and getting all of that fleshed out, by all means do it, because you never know when it could pay off. You could be booking a job just by doing nothing, just having a profile.
Awesome. And one of the things you just said, I want to make sure that we underline, which is that sorry, I just lost my thought. Hold on. You just said something brilliant. We're going to edit this part out because you just said something brilliant that I was obsessed with, where you said casting people.
It's hard to choose.
How did you start what you just said? What did you say at the beginning?
Well, just basically.
Sorry to interrupt you again. Okay. I want to underline something Katie snuck into what she just said, which is they're seeing 30% more actors. The producers and directors are able to see more actors. So what you're saying is, because we moved to self-tape, we may see a lot of actors received the news or the experience of, oh my God, we're all doing self-tapes, we're never going in the room again, as such a deficit of like, I'm not going to get to share my essence in the room. We've kind of fixed that today by saying, let's put it into our profile. The second part is they're seeing more actors because of the efficiency inside. So that's truly something you're seeing in terms of numbers, Katie, that they're able to see more people.
I'm seeing that as being feedback from casting directors and saying that, they're able to schedule more people. And now, I think the first couple of months of the pandemic were rough on everybody. We were all trying to figure out this new workflow, all scrambling to just adjust, to this new way of life. And now, a lot of the casting directors I know, where they have their session runners who basically have like a whole studio set up, they have their lobby assistants running the Zoom calls. Everything's just a well-oiled machine now. So now that they understand how the process can work and realizing that again, maximizing efficiency, it sort of takes the incentive of like, I can work in my jammies. Great.
Right. So, I don't have shoes on right now. I just want you to know I'm standing here.
Likewise.
There you go.
I'm in my flippy socks. It's fine. But yeah, that's what our goal is too, is to maximize efficiency, to make the platform work for everybody. And ultimately, as opposed to an actor driving around LA, trying to squeeze in 4 auditions in a day, going from Glendale to Santa Monica to Hollywood to downtown.
I already want to quit acting when you say that. It makes everyone want to quit acting when you say that's the story of like, no, I don't need to do this anymore. Yeah.
Oh, like a 4:50 audition at Ocean Park. Like people who live in LA will understand that reference. Yes. But aside from that, now you can get 4 or 5 auditions done before lunch. I see my friends now who are working actors where they have their little room set up with their self-tapes and they're just knocking them out, and so I think it's just increasing opportunity. I think we just needed to get out of this little kind of growing period of kind of figuring everything out. And now that we're moving forward, I think that it's only going to be more opportunities for everybody.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Scott, anything you want to leave people with today?
Yeah. Katie touched on a lot of things that I was thinking about here, especially the fact that the process is kinder for actors in terms of their schedule. That's one thing that I've heard a lot from talent that have been reluctant to the self-tape process versus in-person auditions. The silver lining is that they don't have to be in 3 places all at the same time, and they get to work from home, which is exciting. The one thing I also hear from talent quite a bit is they love the idea that they're their take that they send is basically their seal of approvals on it before they send it to casting. It gives them a chance to workshop that take before sending it and casting viewing it versus the live audition process. And I know there's benefits to both, and I think, you know, that's part of a bigger conversation. But I do see talent appreciating this process, and I think a lot of it is going to stay.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I cannot thank you guys enough for today. It was just such a gift to, especially after we've been through this big update, to have you kind of, I feel very grounded now in understanding casting networks. I hope that my listeners feel that way too. In like, oh, this is so, it's BETTA. It is BETTA, people. Like, go out there and use it. And the thing that the big takeaway that I think we kind of came to here is, you know, your essence is now reliant upon your online profile. We don't have that experience in the room, and there are tools inside of casting networks to help you share that. So just spend the time on it, and you'll see how far it can take you. And remember, I always say, like, there's a lot of coaches and courses and programs about your self-tape, which is great and necessary. It doesn't help you get more auditions. What helps you get more auditions is spending the time here. And it's so easy to focus on the tape. And I think actors gravitate towards that because it feels more crafty, feels more actory, right? And so this is a little more technical. So light a candle, set your intention, put the incense, and be like, okay, I'm going to do this with some calmness. So I just appreciate that. And you guys spending this time with me today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's great seeing you again.